Welcome to Back Talk Live. I'm Tom Hardigree. I'm going to be your host tonight. How about that? You know what I do? I try to have guests every once in a while. Sometimes I get lucky and I get a guest. This season being election season, I've been lucky a couple times lately when I didn't see it. I had, Doc Ayers on a couple of weeks ago. He's running for city council against Bill Griggs, run for the seat that Bill Griggs currently owns. Bill Griggs is with me tonight, and we're just going to talk about things. Now, I would like for you to call in for questions for Bill or text my phone. These numbers will be up in a minute. Text me or whatever you want to do to ask questions of Bill if you want to. Otherwise, I'm just going to be, talking to Bill. So keep that in mind.
With that in mind, please call in.
So give me a shout. We'll be back right after this station break. We're so tired. Hey, Lee, what you doing?
My air's quit working. I'm going to call McGee Heating and Air.
Wait a minute. You got a screwdriver? I know a good bit about this. I can walk you through it. Won't take but a second. Should have called McGee Heating and Air.
McGee Heating and Air. Comfort you can count on.
All right. Welcome, Bill Griggs, Councilman Bill Griggs.
Well, thank you, neighbor Tom Hardigree.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I just sort of a side note, I've known Bill my whole life. We've been talking about some old times, things that we used to do when we were children. And Bill, I know most of you know this, but some might not. Bill has been a community servant his entire life that I know. I mean, I remember 1981 when Ronald Reagan got elected. I was a big Reagan supporter. I sort of think I'm the one that got him elected. But in 1981, he started talking about volunteerism. He wanted us to have a new spirit of volunteerism. I was in the Kiwanis Club with Bill at that time, and I got the Kiwanis Club to go along with this scheme to fix up that recreation park down there. To paint it, it had been painted red, white, and blue for the bicentennial in 1976. Well, by 1981, the paint looked kind of bad. So we just decided as a club to get together and paint those bleachers and all that. Bill donated all of the lumber to go on those bleachers. Great expense to Bill. He was down there sawing and nailing and carrying on. But those are the kind of things Bill has always done. And now he's been on city council for how long?
6 years.
6 years, all right. Good deal. Well, let me ask you, why do you want to serve on city council?
My work's not finished. Hartwell's not finished. And I will tell you, when I was growing up, we would come to school every morning since Mother was a school teacher, and we had to be here on the right time. And I would go in, and at that time I knew where everybody worked in Hartwell, I think. And I went by, I learned to swell equipment riding by Monroe Auto Equipment Company.
Yeah.
I'm the world's worst speller. I'm right up there with your sister-in-law, Nancy.
She's a bad speller, too.
Oh, she's terrible.
Well, I'm so glad that people want to serve the community. So glad that people will run for these things. I wish more people would run for office to give us more ideas, more debate, and that kind of thing, but I usually don't get my way on that. Tell me something about the city. What's going on with the city?
Well, the big thing is State Park. And I think we may have to change what we call it because it's not going to be a state park.
Yeah.
But we're working with the man that's with Campgrounds KOAs.
Yeah.
He's out of Florida, and he stuck with us for how many years now? About 6 years we've been trying to get this done. And thanks to the Corps of Engineers and their ways. As a former Army officer, I hate when somebody calls the United States Army Corps of Engineers. That's a slap in anybody that's ever been in the Army, including me.
Yeah, the Corps of Engineers really kind of chaps me. I got a text. Doc claims to be a middle-of-the-road politician, but I think everyone should know what he said on his show. Quote, I think health care is a right, end quote. Okay, well, there's a text about your opponent. He didn't say that on this show, and maybe another time he'll come on and we can talk about health care and things like that. But yeah, that is not a conservative position, or even middle of the road position. So yeah, the state park, yeah, it's been a long time, and I've talked about it until it almost makes me nauseated. But it's taken way too long. I know that there were things that y'all ran into that you didn't expect. And do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel? What can we expect to get at that state park? I know that the fellow with the campground, I know that's a kind of a done deal, and that's a wonderful piece of news. I hear the rumor. You can confirm or deny or don't know, but I have heard that he would like to take the entire park over with a guarantee that after 10 years he'll have the $400-something thousand repaid, and that he would like to find the other vendors to come into the park as he can.
Well, I haven't talked to him in 6 months, I don't guess. And something like that. He's a nice guy. I trust him. And he's got several KOAs in the Florida area. So it's not his first rodeo, as the saying goes. And he's a nice guy. He bought me breakfast one morning.
All right.
Can't do any better than that in my book. But
well, now you were on isn't it the committee, the state park committee, you and Trey Hicks? No, it's just Trey.
Pretty much all Trey.
That's another thing, Bill. I talk about sometime on the show, and I didn't bring it in. I got it out of my truck. But the form of government we are, the state that the councilmen are not supposed to be into the management of the city business. That's for the city manager. And I have talked about it until I'm blue in the face. Do y'all ever talk about letting the city manager take that responsibility instead of Trey?
We did something a few months back when John took over, and people thought, well, maybe we didn't think John was going to do a good job. Just furthest thing from that, we all think John's going to do a great job, and he does do a great job. I get an email from him every day, and I mean, he is riding shotgun on the depot, and it's really looking good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know anything, but I suspect that John is a very capable guy, and I think that he could do a great job with this state park because he has the training, and it's his job. That's the way that our charter is written, and that's the law in the state of Georgia. Gosh, I wish I had brought that in and to read it. But anyway, I just wondered if there was ever going to come a time when we would. And I think that if this fella takes over the park, if we could possibly give it to him and say, okay, here you go, it's your baby.
I personally don't see him taking over the park.
Mm-hmm.
He may take over the campground portion of the park, but I don't see him taking over the park and running it. We'll find somebody to do that.
Somebody needs to do it so that the city doesn't have that in my estimation. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe something the city wants to do. I don't know. But anyway, that state park is the hot issue in Hart County. And at one time, Tony Haney recommended that we put a deadline on this, a quicker deadline than the 10-year deadline that's already on it. And say, let's either do something or forget about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I guess that idea went out the window when y'all decided to give this other fella $45,000 more dollars.
Well, I think once the Corps brought us a decent deal, a decent lease on the property, which, it belongs to us. We know that. That kind of changed it. And we finally got everything that we wanted within reason. And Sean, the guy that worked for us for several months, at any rate, did that gratis to us because he never had seen this. I mean, he's the one that handled Lake Lanier Islands, which has been a great boon for Hall County, like they need anything else, but it's been a great boon for them. And it would be nice if we could have something like that. And we are talking about trying to put in a hotel down there. And I hear 5-star hotels. I have not heard anybody say anything about a 5-star hotel.
Well, I know what was said, and that's my term, 5-star, but Brandon Johnson, when he first presented the idea to the city, he said, we're going to try to have a hotel down there. And he says, I'm not talking about a small hotel. I'm talking about a nice big hotel like the one I take my family to on vacation, about $150 a night. So that's where I started calling it 5 or 4-star hotel, just because, that's for a description. But the hotel people that I've talked to say that it would never happen. So, but I mean, I'm not on city council. Y'all may have talked to other hotel people.
Now, I will say this. Oh, gosh, 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, the entire city council got in a rented van, and our chief drove us up there, and we rode all around with somebody that had been involved in it. And then they put on a feed for us. We had to make our own sandwiches, by gosh. I tell you, it's not as great as they say. But we went around and we found 2 or 3 places where hotels have been knocked down that it didn't make it up there. You don't hear about the ones that don't make it.
That was at Lanier?
This is Lake Lanier Islands, yeah.
Well,
and the Corps has, that's not our district. We're in the Savannah district of the Corps of Engineers. That's in the Mobile district. And they feel like they got ripped off, that somebody pulled a fast one on them. I mean, they'll tell you that up there.
Well, the story I get from Alan Powell on that was that what happened, they allowed some private investors to come in and build hotels and things, and when it went belly up, they walked away. And the Corps of Engineers was left with having to clean up the trash in the buildings and knock it all down at great expense. It had to come out of their budget. And that's when they decided this will never happen again, which is why we've had to go through all this to try to get something done like that, because the Corps is not going to. They will lease this thing to a state government, because the state government's got the money to clean things up.
Right.
I don't know what your arrangement is, but I'm assuming, may be wrong, but I'm assuming that the city of Hartwell would have to clean up any mess. Somebody would have to clean up the mess. So that was the story. Now, you said the entire city council got on a bus and went somewhere. Would that not be considered a meeting that you'd have to advertise? I mean, the city council is not supposed to get together without the public being invited, I don't think.
Well, the public was not uninvited, but no, it was advertised that we did that.
All right, well, anyway, there's the state park thing. Wait a second, I got one right here. Hold on. Dear Back Talk, first let me thank Councilman Griggs for appearing on your show and thank him for his service. My question for Councilman Griggs is this: The city has several projects ongoing, including the State Park, Torch, Depot Street, the stalled project next to Walmart, and now a $6 million sewer expansion. Is there enough money to see each project is done and done right?
Well, we're with the money we got on that grant, we're getting close. And if you read the Hartwell Sun, we have to service the debt. In other words, have to pay the interest on it, but we don't have to pay the money back. Isn't that Isn't the federal government great? Yeah.
How long do you have to pay interest before you can quit?
Oh, I don't know. Why worry about it? We don't have to pay it back.
Well, I got to pay some people back with a commercial break, and so you send them more text messages, emails, or whatever you want to do. We'll be back in just a second or two.
Some things are just better left to the professionals. So when it's time for home improvement, make sure you call Herring Gutter and Insulation. Whether it's window replacement, gutters, insulation, or siding, Herring Gutter and Insulation can make your home look new again. Call today for a free estimate or visit us online at herringgutter.com.
Lee, all this painting is tough business. Look, I got a spot on my shirt. Yeah. Hi folks, we're at the Dairy Queen of Hartwell to give breakfast eaters a voice. So how'd you fellas like your Dairy Queen breakfast?
Oh, they're mighty fine.
Excellent.
The best breakfast in town.
Good breakfast.
How do you like high taxes?
I don't like them too good.
I don't like them in the local level or any other part of government.
Don't like them at all.
I don't like high taxes.
4 out of 4 breakfast eaters choose Dairy Queen food over high taxes. And Ray, how do you like Back Talk Live?
Back Talk Live.
Okay, welcome back to Back Talk Live, and welcome back, Bill Griggs. I got another text message. Hang on, folks, hang on. All right, can you elaborate on the recent grant for the sewer project? The city's match is $3.3 million. What flooding is the grant referring to? By the way, the city is getting a UEFA loan and will pay interest on the loan. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what flooding are we talking about here?
That I don't know. I wasn't involved in any of that, so I really can't tell you.
I had heard something about this, that there's some $3.3 million grant for some flooding. I'm not aware of any flooding since Noah's time around here.
Sure hadn't been in the last 3 months, I'll tell you that. Lord,
All right, tell me about this depot project, because that thing seems to be dragging on a little
Torch,
bit.
okay. First of all, Torch has nothing to do with the city.
I said the depot project,
Oh,
the
okay.
Depot Street
All right.
project. The Depot Street project. You know, where do we stand? How long is that going to be? And what are we regular folks hoping? What are we going to find out the end result is going to be?
Well, I guess it's when we're finished.
I mean, what's it going to look like? Are we going to have what down there?
Well, you can go and you can kind of see what we've got.
More or less parking, or better
parking, more parking. Over next to Old Dixon Implement Company, we've got a parking lot for, I think it's something like 16 or 18 cars right next to the Lush building, which is a beauty parlor there. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, the Dickerson Implement Company, in case you're wondering where that is, it was right across from Walt Merritt's Service Grocery.
Yes, formerly known as Little Japan, which is gone to Royston now. But
so anyway, when do you think that'll be finished?
You know, I'm going to guess, and don't hold me to this, Probably in the next 2 months, and maybe not even that long either. We're trying to make everything ADA approved type, and that one square that's on to include at Southern Heart up there and all around. You got to step up to it. And I know I was walking out of Bell's Cobb, 2 years ago, and I looked down. There's this lady just laying face down like this on the sidewalk, and she got the first step, but the second step she tripped. And I mean, she was just out like that. And so I go to help her up, and I realize it's somebody from my high school graduating class. She's one of the 8 sets of twins we had. We had 8 sets of twins in my graduating class.
You're kidding me.
Well, dads just had gotten back from Europe, man, or from, they were ready, and so on. But it was Brenda Cantrell, and she and her sister, who was Barbara, and I hope I'm getting this right. Barbara had died of cancer. And Brenda and Barbara, when they went in the Navy, they went in as corpsmen, or corps people, I guess. And she decided she was going to become a doctor, and maybe she could have saved her sister. And so I helped her up, and I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm Brenda." And I said, "Well, yeah, I know Brenda. We were in the same class together." She said, "Exactly." And I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Sure." I said, "You think you need to go to a doctor?" I forgot she was a doctor. And she looks at me and said, "Bill, I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm fine." I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, look at that knee." And she said, "Well, it's just little skin off of it and that kind of stuff." I'd be sucking my thumb probably by then. But
all right. So you mentioned Torch is not a part of the city. I know it started by a private group, but of course they got the city involved pretty quickly.
Well, they did. They did, and you're having to deal with the railroad, and the railroad something like the Corps of Engineers to deal with. I really am knocking the Corps of Engineers now, aren't I?
Well, it seems to have been sort of stalled. I mean, that is sort of like the state park. It started out, we're really about the same time as the state park, as well as I remember, and it's just dragged on and dragged on. And it started out as it was going to be mostly private money that was going to go into the Torch. They were going to try to get some grants, but it was mostly private money. And it was going to be, at that time, $3.8 million to do the thing. And then we just don't hear anything about it much anymore.
Well, they've lost some of their leaders in that. Nicky Meyer was involved in that to some degree, and actually a big degree.
Yeah.
And of course, we lost her 2 months ago, something like that. And bless her heart, she was at City Council 3 or 4 days before she passed away, telling us exactly, blah, 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 this money this, blah, 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 this money there. I mean, she knew what she was talking about. But like I say, we lost her.
Do you know if that project is going to get started anytime soon, or is it going to get started, or what?
I have not been to a meeting. I started out with them at the beginning, and had a little falling out with one of them. Do you know, in the old Rio's restaurant, there's some pictures in the building where civic clubs used to meet in the room, and up there it's Corey Phillips and Ben Leard when they played against each other. And that's only the second time in the history of major college football that high school quarterbacks that played with each other played in a game. And that happened. And I said, now, and Nikki was talking about her plans for it. And I said, now, Nikki, you got to realize this is the South, and we love our football. And if you go in there and you paint over that, so we're going to have to paint over it. That's go without a doubt. I said, well, I tell you, if you go over it, I'm out of here. Because I said, no, you can't do that. That's history. That's like saying Bill Inslee didn't win two state championships in one night.
Yeah.
And it's just come out in the nation that he did, and nobody knew it.
Well, who won?
Who won what?
The contest. Did the mural stay up, or did it?
They're there as far as I know.
They never painted over them.
No.
Yeah.
See, nobody's taken over the building.
Yeah.
Actually, the people that did bought Jim's Grill, we thought we might have somebody interested there. But
so the city owns that building? Doesn't the city own some buildings down there, or?
I'm not familiar with that part.
I've seen a building down there that's got a for sale sign, and I thought it was, I don't know if it was the city or the DDA or something, but anyway, I was thinking that some governmental organization owned a building down there.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I know that when they were talking about Torch, in the beginning they were going to have a farmer's market and they were going to have a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I never could figure out how the government could have a restaurant. I never figured that out. It was supposed to be like a, health food kind of a place. All right, hold it. Depot Day is on the 18th or 19th. It doesn't look like they'll have Depot Street repaved by then, does it? 18th or 19th of this month. I guess it is. So no, it doesn't look like they will.
Probably not.
All right, hang on. We got another one here for you. Has Trey Hicks given the councilmen a report on exactly where the $300,000 plus for the state park was spent? If not, why? Well, initially they were going to spend $180,000 to $190,000, I think, and anyway, somehow after that, I heard that it was $325,000 that they had spent on it, and then the next thing I know, I guess it's after this $45,000 you're going to spend with this fella, it's up to $400,000 or whatever it is. But but where did that $325,000 go?
I have no earthly idea.
Well, I know that some of it went to buy the lease pay off the lease that the state had. The state had some years left.
I'm not sure if any of that did. I know it's been paid off. Now, how it got paid off, I don't know.
I was thinking that was part of it, and then part of it was the engineering firm that did the original, that real thick report y'all got.
Yeah.
Thousands went into that. I can't remember the numbers. And then that was the first like 180 or 190,000. After that, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that much of it. The rest of that 325, I don't know. I'm supposing, they were paying some guy. You don't remember this, but I do. I got a report on the money that we were giving this fella. I guess it's the same guy we just gave.
Sean, yeah.
We were giving this fella, and I got a printout of how much money we were giving that guy per month. And this was it's not updated today, but back then, I forget how many months, it covered a lot of months. But we had given him anywhere from $4,000 to $19,000 and all kind of numbers in between for that period of time that I had that report. So I don't know what that fellow was doing with that money. I don't know. I'm sure there's an explanation somewhere, but I don't know what he was doing with it. I think probably at that time I was asking, if some councilman would mind coming on the show and explaining it, but I never did get that far with it. Let's see, we got one more here, Bill. Any opinions on the rezoning of the Skelton House? I saw in the paper something today about some committee voted not to rezone it to let them do.
That was the city zoning board, not elected officials. I was on that for 15 years, and I was the chairman up for 15 years, and so I've been to all kind of zoning meetings and so forth, which are really boring, really boring. But I don't live there. I don't go to church right by it. You know, you hear people coming up and saying, well, they might have alcohol there. Well, yeah, probably will.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's going to be a wedding, I can guarantee there's going to be some alcohol there.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about the parking. Actually, I think the parking's pretty good. They've got the city lot down there, and we're not going to charge anybody for that.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already helped pay for it.
Now, one last question I want to ask you, because I just remember this. Somebody told me this today. We're talking about...
And you still remember it.
Can you believe it?
You're so much better than you used to be.
I had forgotten it until you said something. The Historic Preservation Commission, sometimes they will tell people what colors at least the rumor around town is that they'll tell you what color to paint your building and some other structural things and all that. But anyway, this guy who I think knows things was talking to me, and he said they are not a governing authority and they cannot force you to do anything like that. Now, was that right or wrong? What do you know?
I don't know anything. I don't know how they're chartered or anything about that.
Yeah.
I stay away from the Historical Society or the Historical Society.
If you call it the Historical Society, some of those people will get on you and they'll tell you it's not the Historical Society, it's the Historic Preservation Commission. Bill, thank you for coming on.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Bill, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Anything you want to tell anybody, any parting shot, how to send campaign contributions or anything like that?
Well, I'd like to say I don't need the money, but if you want to send it, I tried to get somebody, your brother, before I came, but he...
Yeah, good luck.
It's poker night, so...
All right. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
See you soon.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Good luck. All right. We'll be back in a minute. Got to get Bill on the way, and then I'll start making people mad like I usually do. Be right back.
Tom, I can't wait to see Gina's new store.
Me, Lee, don't let me go overboard in here, please. Lee, she's got beautiful jewelry. She's got men's wallets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been looking for one.
Why don't you go ahead and get that and see what happens?
Tom, you need some t-shirts, man. Simply Southern. Look at all this.
Oh, yeah, man. I think I'll get a t-shirt, Lee. I think I'll get one.
Tom, they've got totes, monogrammed, insulated and uninsulated.
Yeah, man. I got to have this one. Lee, they've even got monogrammed handbags.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. I think your wife would like this one.
Sure. Tom, they even had a pet section. Pet deodorizers, pet scarves, clothes.
Leroy, they got strutting cotton, turn rows, and southern sipping t-shirts. Well, thank you, Leroy.
Tom, she's got a line of Bible covers, Bibles, Christian books, even books for kids.
And my favorite, the King James Version. That's the one that Moses read. Leroy, they got this spirit wear, Hart County stuff, Georgia Bulldogs, some Clemson stuff, and they got these neat towels.
For all of your gift-giving needs, visit G's Southern Traditions, located at 36 North Forest Avenue in downtown Hartwell. And we can monogram almost anything.
Well, looks like you did go a little crazy, didn't you?
Frankly, my friend, I don't give a...
The Hartwell Housing Authority features decent, safe, and sanitary housing for low-income families. Each of the 7 apartment complexes are located in the Hartwell city limits and feature 24-hour maintenance, landscaping, as well as 24-hour surveillance. You can choose apartments from 1 bedroom all the way up to 4 bedrooms. All apartments are periodically renovated and stoves and refrigerators are furnished. Gas, water, sewage, and garbage pickup are also included. The Hartwell Housing Authority. Applications may be picked up daily.
Welcome back to Back Talk Live. I got it by myself now, as you see, but I really don't have it by myself because you can call in or text, and I wish you would. Anything you want to say, pretty much within reason. I have a text I'll lead off with. I was talking to Bill a little bit about these sidewalks and Bill Griggs, and he was talking about somebody that fell down and on the sidewalk, and that kind of leads me into this text message that I got. I had talked to another person, Gina McElroy, who is a sponsor of this show, G's Southern Traditions. She had sent me a text message earlier about this very thing. Said, I tripped and fell on the uneven sidewalk around the square this morning. No hospital trip. Skinned my knee and fell on my hip. So when the city is going to mark the uneven sidewalk areas with yellow, when is the city going to mark the uneven sidewalk areas with yellow paint, since they don't want to fix it? The trees that litter the storefronts are pushing up through the sidewalk areas. If you don't have time, if you have time, I don't get this part, but anyway. So this is what happened to her tonight. And let me find another one that I got down here. So this is what happened to her sometime today. And I got a picture that somebody else gave me. Now this is a picture of an uneven sidewalk. I've got another picture that I didn't get to Wes in time to get on there, but that's one picture of an uneven sidewalk. That's the kind of thing that causes people like Gina to fall, or anybody to fall. I mean, Gina just happened to be the victim this time, but there have been others. And this is the kind of thing, you see these advertisements on TV where they can squirt this stuff under there and raise that up to even it out and all. So I don't know if that's the solution, but something ought to be done about that to get those sidewalks fixed. Now, the other person, the person that sent me that was talking to me about, we're spending all this money on these ideas like the state park and Torch and Depot Street stuff and all of that in the hopes of, doing something like attracting tourists or whatever. But you get tourists to come or new people to move into town, that's dangerous right there. That ought to be addressed before we start these experiments, in my opinion. Listen to this one now. It is sickening that the city leaders can find all kind of pet projects to spend hundreds of thousands of tax dollars on instead of maintaining what they already have. That puts people's safety at risk, not to mention the fact that uneven sidewalks, rough streets need paving badly. Vickery Street is one example. That's not as the Vickery Street is not as important to them as what it seems to be, which is building their legacy while they're in office. Maybe if someone gets injured bad enough, a good personal injury attorney will get their attention, and then maybe something will be done. Also, while it is on my mind, these trees that are causing the sidewalk problem needs to be replaced with something smaller. They are a nuisance to many store owners around town because they are right in front of the store entrances. They do damage to the adjacent structures, they promote growth of algae and litter the entrances with leaves that are constant battle trying to keep them out of business doorways. So that says about all I could say about it. Something really needs to be done. I know that when we did this streetscape project, it was to make the appearance of the town better, and it did. Those sidewalks and all that stuff looks really sharp, snazzy, and that's good. I think, at least from this text and other people that I've talked to for years, the thing that was overlooked was practicality. They call them pullouts, those things at the corners, these big round things. I don't know the purpose of them. I don't know why they have them there. I'm sure there's some kind of aesthetic purpose, but I don't know exactly what it is. But they're really big. A lot of people run up on them, you know, knock the car out of line and all the rest. It just wasn't practical. The fact that now we have to, if you drive a truck, if you're a Hart County-ian, you know, there's a fair chance you're going to have a truck. And if you drive a truck and you want to park in town, you've got to pull your truck up on the curb in order to get out of the street. The practicality wasn't there. The beauty was, but the practicality wasn't. Now, I've noticed on Depot Street, what they're doing down there, they got these big flower boxes, I guess, or I guess they're going to put trees or flowers or something in them, where cars used to park in several places. And they've got one of those big I couldn't believe it. When I was down there watching them pour, they were putting the framing around to pour for another one of these pullouts. And I'll just be doggone, it looked to me like it was going to be about the same size as those pullouts they've got in town. I hope I'm wrong, and maybe I am. But they've taken up, like they did around town, we've eliminated a lot of parking spaces along in there with those aesthetic. And they're gonna, I guarantee you it's going to look good. There's no question about that. It's going to look good, but the practicality suffered a little bit because we were looking for that beauty. So I don't know what's right and what's wrong, but after you pour concrete, if you're wrong, it's too late. I mean, you could go and spend millions to tear it up and fix it, but that's not going to happen. So yes, texters, I do agree, and everybody agrees with you, that we need to put the safety of our citizens first and make sure that the sidewalks aren't going to kill people, aren't going to hurt people. What else y'all want to talk about? You know, I was asking Bill a little bit about the torch and those kind of things. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, they don't publicize. Now, the city is involved. They're going to be involved in a big way, I think. But they do know what's going on, and it would be nice if the city, if the mayor or one of the councilmen would explain things like the state park, like this torch project, where we are, what's going to go on. You remember it at first. They said they were going to have this big, you know, 2-story, I think, farmer's market, and you'd park your trucks, and then you'd get these wagon gizmos that they would have for you. You'd put your vegetables in the wagons, haul them upstairs to this place and put them in freezers if you wanted to, or whatever it was. And then you'd sell your vegetables, and what you didn't sell, you'd haul them back down and put them in your truck. Well, the gardeners, it's not really farmers, it's gardeners. The gardeners didn't like that idea. They don't want something like that where they're gonna have to work their tails off. They want a place where they can park their trucks, put up an umbrella, and sell their vegetables. So once the torch people found that out, I think at least what I heard was they were going to nix that idea about the farmer's market. So that may be part of it that's gone, I don't know. But it would be nice to know these things, to know what they're planning on doing, how much money. Really, I don't care how much private money they spend. It makes no difference to me. Private money is got nothing to do with me. But I would like to know how much the taxpayers are going to have to put into this thing and what they're going to do with it. I did get a text. It says this: what happened with Katichi? Boy, I don't know. I saw the article in the paper today. I didn't have time to read it. I saw where the city was going to sell their land to Katichi. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know hardly anything about it. I do know this, that normally the way you sell land is to put it on the open market and see what happens. And you can accept or reject offers, or you can counter offer, you can negotiate. That's what normally happens. I would have thought that before the city decided to sell any land, before anybody sells any land, I always tell people this when I'm going to sell their property, that a good idea is to get it appraised first. Yes, appraisers are not always right, but appraisers can come closer than you or me, can come closer to any realtor, can come closer to anybody, because they look at a whole lot of factors before they decide. So if the city had done what most people do, they would have had that land appraised, and they would know what it was worth closer than, and then they would have been able to negotiate. Now I think that land, I hadn't put the pencil to this, but I think that land they sold for, or selling for $2,000 an acre. That is pretty cheap land. There may be a reason for that I don't know, but if they had done an appraisal, they could have pointed to, in the public meeting, they could have pointed to the reasons they are selling it for what they're selling it for, and refer to the appraisal instead of what they did, which is to have people all whanged out, wanting to know why they sold it so cheaply. So, but to answer your question, I don't know what happened at Katichi, but I do know this: I'm going to have to take a break, and after the break, we'll come back and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Send me something in. How about that?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Barton. Since 1903, multiple generations of my family have contributed to the growth of HTC while serving the local community. Our vision has always been to provide cutting-edge communication and entertainment services to the surrounding area. From home security to fiber optics, HTC will continue to provide services that enrich the lives of the customers we serve. HTC, technology you need, people you can trust.
On the Trane test range, you learn what makes our heating and cooling systems so reliable. If there's a breaking point, we'll find it. It's hard to stop a Trane. Really hard.
Remember, McGee Heating and Air. Comfort you can count on. It's hard to stop a Trane.
All right, welcome back to Back Talk Live. I am in the real estate business, you know, and I've been busy as a beaver here lately. You know what I realize about myself? I complain about things in the real estate world just like I complain about things in the government world. I'm a complainer. If something is not right, I just talk about it. You know, the Georgia, on the MLS, I guess the Real Estate Commission makes these, I don't know who makes these rules up, but on the MLS anyway, you can have a house under contract with some contingencies, and there's a place on there that you can fill out that says, you know, you have under contract pending. Anyway, there's a designation for that. But you don't have to do it. They have a rule in there that I was unaware of until recently. They have a rule that says, well, you know, if you don't want to, you don't have to put that it's pending anything. You can just keep it active as if it's not even under contract. That's crazy to me, because buyer, and the explanation I was given by another realtor was the real estate commission and the MLS and all that, they don't really care. They're not really concerned with buyers. They're concerned with sellers. Well, you know, that may be right and that may be wrong. I don't know. But to me, they ought to be concerned with everybody, because if I'm a buyer and I'm looking at a house on the MLS and there's a contract on it, I may not want to look at it. I may not want to fool with the red tape involved. And it seems to me like that's the way it ought to be done. Anyway, I'm with Red Clay Properties, and I'd like you to call me. I won't fuss at you, but I might fuss about something that pertains to you that might get in your way. Anyway, thank you. So I've been talking about the city a lot. I'd like to talk about something else. I don't know what exactly. I did talk to a merchant recently about something that this merchant was complaining about how much money is spent by government, and this merchant said, this was a woman, said she didn't understand where all the money goes. And you know, if you think about it, there's hundreds of millions, I mean millions and millions of dollars that are being spent, and people really don't know where it goes. I was talking to this merchant about maybe getting other merchants together and just informing them about how much money is being sucked out of this community every single month and spent on government. Now, we don't have, as citizens, we don't really have the opportunity to say no to the spending that the governmental bodies do. We really can't do too much about that except, you know, elect new people. But on these spliced initiatives, that's the time that the government allows us to vote on whether or not we're going to tax ourselves. Last month, 1 month, over $1 million came out of this community in tax, in sales taxes, and that's money that would have been spent in the stores around town, but instead is spent on government. I know this topic is off subject, but I feel the need to say something about the issue. It is a disgrace that the citizens of the city of Hartwell cannot speak out about issues they have at city council meetings. The meetings are held in a building that was paid for by the citizens of Hartwell. The council is paid with tax dollars, yet they cannot exercise what is their right to speak. This is pure arrogance at work. This is not only a local issue, it is a nationwide issue. All they want is your tax dollars. And this refers to the fact that they won't allow public comment anymore at the city council meetings. They were upset because Mary Beth Foster came and was gnawing on them about something, and they just called it off, said, okay, nobody's going to be able to talk anymore. And it is a disgrace. Ray, go ahead.
Tom.
Yeah, man.
How you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You come out?
No, you're on. Come on.
Pick up, Tom.
You can't hear me, I guess, but I can hear you. Yeah.
I want to know how much more money the city is going to pay in the state park.
Well, I mean, I guess that remains to be seen. Right now they've decided to spend another $45,000 with this fella that is supposed to be, you know, trying to work on it to get us more people to come into the state park, more vendors, more businesses to come into the state park. So I think the number right now is up to around, I've heard $400,000 or $425,000. Now, whether or not they're going to later on vote to spend even more money remains to be seen. But right now, I think you can go with $425,000 maybe.
Okay. All right, one other thing. When are the people that's going to start listening to Tony Haney and Mike Manal?
Well, I don't know. You know, they voted against the state park issue in the first place. And then they voted against spending this additional $45,000 this last time. I think the feeling of the council is this: well, they've already spent all that money. If they can't get something going there, they're never going to get any of that money back. So they feel like they've got to keep it going in order to maybe someday get some of that money back. The good news is this fellow with the campground looks like he's actually going to do it. And I don't know if he'll be able to get all the money back, but he might get us a little bit back. The problem that I see in this whole thing is that it's almost unfathomable that they would ever get a hotel or a nice restaurant for a number of reasons. One, who wants to build a building on government property and have the city council as your landlords? That's one thing. The other thing is, what bank, what mortgage, what lender is going to lend you the money to build a building on government property? None of them. Nobody's going to do that. And the other problem is, like Bill Griggs was alluding to earlier at Lake Lanier, somebody came in there and built a bunch of buildings, and it flopped. And they walked away and left all those buildings and a whole lot of other trash laying around. So I don't think I helped you much, but that's all I know about it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. There's some time you took care of yourself. Going home, okay?
I'll do it, man, just in a few minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, one last text. I don't get why city leaders are spending money prettying up Depot Street when they won't maintain what they already have. What's going to eventually happen, I know we got to go, what's going to eventually happen is we're going to build enough stuff, because I talked about this during the eSplosh thing, that all of these buildings that we're going to build with these millions of dollars have to be maintained. Now, they may not maintain them like they should. Some people said that the Fine Arts Center was not maintained very well, that it was a lot of trash and stuff. I don't know. People say that, but if you're going to maintain it, you got to spend a lot of money on it. If you're going to have these sidewalks and things like that, you need to make sure when they buckle up like that, that you fix them. It's all going to take a lot of money. The more things you have, the more money it's going to take to maintain. And I don't know why people can't see that. They think about, oh boy, this is going to be great to have this fine building. It's just more money. But maybe it's worth it. All right, I can tell you what, it was worth it to me to be able to get some things off my chest. I enjoy it. I want to thank Bill Griggs for coming and talking about his candidacy. That's coming up the first Tuesday in November, that election, so don't forget that. It's going to be Bill Griggs, the incumbent, against Doc Ayers, the challenger. So y'all be sure and vote if you have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion, if you don't know what you're doing, don't vote. And remember that for every election. If you don't know what you're voting on, stay at the house. All right? I tell you what, I'll be back next week with something. I forgot what it is, but we'll see you.